That one glorious word represents more than just the geography between the Sabine and the Rio Grande. It represents a unique idea and way of life. A life of rugged individualism, proud self-reliance, gritty toughness, and fierce independence. That is what made Texas, and that is what will save her again. Howdy, folks. Sam Houston here. I want to thank you for tuning into the Feed Bandit podcast. Feed Bandit is the Texas first outdoors brand built by rabid Texans, for rabid Texans, and all those who aim to be one someday. We unapologetically promote the ideals that shape our Texas pride and Texas first patriotism through our love of hunting, the outdoors, and the gear and apparel we create. Texas, above all else, preserve the tradition, protect the legacy. Check us out at feedbandit.com. And to repeat that great rallying cry from a former colleague of mine, liberty or death. Now, enough of my talking. Here are a couple of bandits that love Texas as much as I do. Enjoy.
Howdy, friend. Welcome back to the Feed Bandit podcast. Jimmy here. Excited you're back with us on another edition of talking about a little Texas history, a little Texas outdoors, and anything else that may come up in this talk. I wanted to start out this episode talking about another trail. So, one of the episodes past 2 or 3 ago, I talked about the Chisholm Trail, which I'm sure a lot of people have heard of. Perhaps one trail through Texas and up through, some other modern day states, although this trail was really through the original Republic of Texas, was the Goodnight-Loving Trail. So let's get in and talk about that, learn a little history here. The Goodnight-Loving Trail ran from Young County, Texas, southwest to Horsehead Crossing on the Pecos River, up the Pecos to Fort Sumner, New Mexico, and on north to Colorado. In the spring and early summer of 1866, Charles Goodnight and Oliver Loving drove their first herd of longhorn cattle over the Butterfield Overland Mail Route from near Fort Belknap via the Middle Concho River and Castle Gap to Horsehead, on some old maps marked Dead Horse Crossing. Leaving the former mail route there, they worked up the Pecos, crossing it from time to time as the terrain and watering places required. They drove a second herd, bought from John S. Chisholm, not spelt the same as the Chisholm from the Chisholm Trail, from his Concho River range to Fort Sumner later that same summer. The northern extension of the Goodnight-Loving Trail was first blazed by Loving in the fall of 1866. Initially, it ran north from Fort Sumner, up the Pecos to Las Vegas, then followed the Santa Fe Trail to Raton Pass and around the base of the Rockies via Trinidad and Pueblo to Denver, Colorado. Since that was a roundabout way, Goodnight in the fall of 1867 altered the route 50 or 60 miles to the east, crossing the Guayanus Valley and the well-watered plains of northeastern New Mexico near Capulin Mountain before swinging back northwestward to Raton Pass. At Raton Pass, Uncle Dick Wooten had established a toll station near the summit and charged Goodnight 10 cents a head for passage. Goodnight complied, but not without protest. At the head of Apshipa Canyon, 40 miles northeast of Trinidad, he set up a ranch and cattle relay station. In the spring of 1868, Goodnight entered into a contract with John Wesley Iliff, in which he agreed to deliver his cattle to Iliff at the Union Pacific Railroad town of Cheyenne, Wyoming. From the Arkansas Valley near Pueblo, Goodnight and his men struck out due north, passing east of Denver to the South Platte River. They crossed that stream at the site of President Greeley and followed a tributary, Crow Creek, to Cheyenne, where the delivery was made. Afterward, Goodnight and his men went back to New Mexico to buy more cattle from Chisholm at Bosque Grande. Returning north, Goodnight further straightened out the trail by leaving the Pecos north of Fort Sumner and traveling north to Alamogordo Creek and across the plains via Cuervo Creek and its tributaries to a spot on the Canadian River 20 miles west of Fort Bascom. From there, he proceeded to the Cimarron Seco west of Capulin Mountain. In order to avoid Dick Wooten's toll road, Goodnight opened a new, easier passageway through Tinchera Pass into Colorado. The Goodnight-Loving Trail was thus routed, and although Goodnight himself made only one more delivery at Cheyenne, many cattle concerns from Texas, New Mexico, and Colorado used all or portions of the trail extensively until the advent of railroads in the Southwest in the early 1880s. The trail was sometimes known simply as the Goodnight Trail. Well, there you have it. Another example of the importance of the trails to the cattle drives, driving them to market in the late 1800s. So you got we talked about the Chisholm Trail. Now we've talked about the Goodnight-Loving Trail. Are there any other interesting trails? Which I know there are. Maybe in the future we'll talk about those. But if you're interested learning any more of those, you know where to go. It's called Google or your favorite search engine. Hell, I'm sure everyone out here is using AI now. It's Chat GPT or something. Just type it in there, and that old chap will give you an interesting history. Let's see. I'm going to move on here to a couple stories about, since we're still deep into wing shooting season. Dove is still underway. Yes, it is. By the time you'll hear this, and hope everyone out there is having a really good shoot. I found an interesting article on some field tips and techniques when going wing shooting and or dove hunting and whatnot. And let me tell you, this is probably an article that I ought to read and implement at least every August, so that I don't go out and waste as many shells as I typically do when I'm sitting in the field. And I especially did this year when I went dove hunting down here in south of San Antonio, where the white wings were flying, like I mentioned in a previous podcast. It was like I was shooting at the Top Gun pilots chasing after some Russian MiGs. It was pretty dang hard. But then again, I hadn't shot in a year, so not that I'm that great of a shot anyway in the first place. But let's see what they have to say here. Maybe you can pull a couple of pointers out of this one and implement them. And this will be relevant to the. Oh man, I don't know if you heard my stomach there, but it's growling something furious. To the last article I want to go through on this one. So let me get into this one. So, wing shooting range practice. Before heading afield, spend ample time handling shotguns as well as putting in practice sessions at the range, which I don't do myself, but I definitely should. I'm embarrassed to say. Many hunters will use different gauge shotguns for different game birds as well as loads. Practice invested with each firearm will result in more successes in the field. Begin with simply handling a selected shotgun. Be sure to check it is unloaded. Yes. Start by slowly mounting the shotgun while duplicating movement for consistency. This rebuilds muscle memory. Then start to mount the gun while moving the barrel ahead of an imaginary target. An old trick is to use a mini mag light with a tight beam. Insert the light in the barrel and move the gun along an imaginary line as the smooth bore is brought to the shoulder. Many will use the seam where a wall joins the ceiling. Focus on the aim point ahead and keep the barrel moving. A number of top shotgun instructors and shooters have different techniques to achieve proper lead. Some will come up from behind a flying bird, and once the lead is reached, a shot is taken. The saying is, butt, belly, beak, bang. Some will use the pre-mount movement to have the shotgun mounted as the barrel reaches a point ahead of the bird. My favorite is to have laser focus just ahead of the bird's beak. The laser focus will force the shooter to not look at the moving wing beat, which the eye brain is naturally drawn to, but on a point ahead of the bird when the shotgun trigger is pulled. Remember, shotgun triggers are pulled while rifle triggers are squeezed, two different shot processes. At the range, skeet and sporting clays field offer a variety of presentations that simulate infield shot opportunities. Start with the quail shot that is low and going away. Basically, cover the bird and pull the trigger. On the skeet range, different stations offer left to right, right to left, in double presentations. Each station is at a slightly different angle and distance. This is where practice pays off. Then try shooting uncalled targets with the trapper releasing a clay with the shooter tracking, then breaking the bird. Sporting clays offers high passing shots from towers at different angles. There's a springing teal that presents targets rapidly coming up from ground or water level, plus those ever popular high flyer incoming shots. That is what I could have practiced on, and probably, I'm not going to say I would have got a limit, but I probably would have reached double digits at least. Productive time spent at the ranges will increase birds in the game bag compared to shells spent. Well, there you go. That's the story of my life. With the rewards comes self-satisfaction and maybe even some bragging rights. Seasons are almost here. Actually, seasons are here. Well, so there's some food for thought, some wise sage advice that I myself need to take. If I start taking it myself, then perhaps I can pass that along to my children when they really start getting out there with the birds. My son got his first shotgun, a single shot 410 youth, from his grandfather this last Christmas, and his arms were just a little too short this dove season to really take it out and utilize it properly. But at the pace that he's growing right now, next season he's going to be ready to rock that thing. So what I need to do is take the advice that I just read in this article here and take him out a couple times, maybe in August or so, or during the summer, practice with that gun, me practice with mine, and get up on the technique here, and so that when we go out that first day, we will have probably a little better success. Oops. So speaking of that first day and success, I got the one more thing I wanted to read about here, which is fun. It has to do with getting the kids out and teaching them how to hunt and whatnot, and which is what big thing of what we're about here at Feed Bandit. So this is a good article here called Doves with Dad. It's an event that celebrates family hunting. This one's in the great Lone Star Outdoor News. So it goes, Lee Batson and his daughter Brady recently attended the 7th annual Doves with Dad event with a group of about 25 other hunters that consisted of fathers and their children. They spent 2 mornings hunting dove west of Wichita Falls with Dry Creek Outfitters. On the first morning of the event, they hunted over a cut and baled milo field where they shot mostly mourning dove. The next morning's hunt took place over a cut cornfield that was dominated primarily by white wings. On both mornings, most hunters were able to harvest at least half of their limit, and many shot a full limit of birds. According to Batson, the annual hunting gathering began in 2018 with his friend Brent McElwain, who originally founded and coordinated the event. Quote, Brent is responsible for introducing dozens of new folks to hunting. Because of his idea and efforts that created this annual tradition that so many of us look forward to, Batson said. For many of the attendees, the event is one of the few times, or possibly the only time, that they will go hunting each year. And it's all for the sake of fathers and their kids spending quality time together in the outdoors. After its origination in 2018, Batson took over the coordinator responsibilities for the event. He handles making the arrangements for the hunts and the lodging each year. I came up with the name Doves with Dad, and it's become one of my favorite weekends of the entire year, Batson said. Many of the dads that attended each year would say the same thing. It started out as a group of friends setting aside the time to get their kids out. Hold while I turn the page here. Out to the field, and has evolved into an open invite event to anyone that wants to join us with their kid or kids. Batson said that over the years, they have had boys and girls attend the event with their dads that ranged from as young as 5 years old up to their mid to late teens. His daughter Brady was 8 years old when she attended the first event, and she attended this year's event at the age of 15. It's been really neat to watch some of these kids that have attended the event with their dads year after year develop as a hunter, Batson said. Many of them could barely shoulder a shotgun or had to play retriever during their first event because they were too little, too young to hunt. And now some of them are shooting better than their dads. According to Batson, about half of the dads within the core group of folks that attended Doves with Dad each year had never hunted before until they attended their first event with their children. It's been awesome to see these men make hunting a part of their family traditions, Batson said. Some of these guys may not have ever started hunting or taken their kids hunting had they not gotten involved with this event. That's pretty special to be part of something like that. So that speaks right there to another thing we're trying to do here on Feed Bandit. The Feed Bandit podcast is encourage everyone to get as many people into hunting as early as possible. You know, whether you're an adult already, if you want to get into hunting, find a hunting club, or if you have a friend that's a hunter, ask if they'd be willing to take you out to hunting. If you are a hunter, man, be sure to get your kids out there with you as soon as possible. Let them sit in the deer blind with you. I know I started, and my friends, we all start taking our kids out pretty young. I took my son and daughter first time to the deer blind with me. I guess they're about 3. Well, my son might have been 2. 2.5. Yeah, my son would have been 2.5 when I took him to the deer blind with me for the first time. Now, you got to have a little preparation there. You know, one thing I didn't do properly as far as deer hunting goes was, you know, I got kids earmuffs, you know, for the blind. But what I didn't do dumbly was I didn't practice with them, and I didn't say, okay, you got to wear these things if I'm about to shoot. You want to put these on and keep them on, and explain why and all that type of stuff. So we just went out, you know, and I figured, I'll just put them on him, he'd be fine. Well, that didn't quite work out. There's a deer that I wanted to shoot, and we had been sitting there a long time, so he was getting restless. And when I say, here, put these on, keep them on, he just didn't want to have any part of that. You know, he didn't want to keep that. So I didn't end up shooting. Wouldn't have mattered. We kind of ended up scaring the deer away anyway. But he just didn't want to put them on. So from that point on, I learned, okay, you know, we got to walk through the motions and, you know, practice ahead of time, what's going to happen when things happen, this, that, and the other. So last year when my daughter sat with me, she was 3. We went through those motions and she understood you got to put the earmuffs on, and I ended up shooting one with her, and she had her earmuffs on and just loved it. So that's always a blast, you know. So next year, and my son sat out since with me sitting out for dove hunting as well, and he's had his earmuffs on and whatnot. But now I think next year he'll be big enough to be able to hold that shotgun comfortably, and I'll be able to teach him how to do that. And yes, I will go back and re-listen to this podcast about the tips on how to prepare for wing shooting ahead of time. So, you know, mark this one down so you can do the same for not only yourself, but you can also apply those tips to your children when you're out there with them in the field. So I hope you enjoyed this episode, learned a little bit. I did. Get recommitted to spreading the word about hunting, and learned a little bit more about our great state of Texas. Working on a lot of cool things for you guys, so we're going to be excited to roll that stuff out. So thank you for being part of the Feed Bandit family. Thank you for being a bandit and listening to this one. And we will catch you on the next one. Take care.
Well, I hope the bandits gave you an interesting episode that either entertained or educated you. Or better yet, both. Hell, I told them this podcasting thing looks harder to do than defeating Santa Anna. So if you would, please help them out by sharing it with all your like-minded friends to help the bandits get the word out. And don't forget to check us out at feedbandit.com and grab some gear and apparel to support the cause of Texas. Remember, Texas, above all else, preserve the tradition, protect the legacy. Finally, as I said some time ago on the eve of the great battle, and I vigorously repeat here again, be men, be free men, that your children may bless their father's name. Well, fellow bandit, until next time.